it's a bit of a weird situation how this all came about.
So I'm nervous, Andy. Don't be nervous. I've forgiven you. Okay.
I did a lip sync. I think it was during the Newcastle Liverpool game, and there was this really long pause that was just ripe for parody, where your co-commentator had the gall to poke fun at your golf game.
Hey, it's true in all sports. We've all played at all levels, whatever it is. Tennis, golf, suddenly
Absolutely.
5-6 good holes in a row, and then you can't hit the damn thing. Here's Murphy. I think you'll find that Livramento's offside here. I think even in the 21st century, the linesman's going to flag.
I think that's just your golf game, though, Clive. Don't put us all in that boat.
Gravenbeck.
You kind of read it accurately. And listen, my job is rather like yours, a crazy job, and it's not really a job at all. If we were back at year dot, and whoever created this globe was actually handing out jobs, even he or she wouldn't have thought of this as a job. Football commentary? What's that? No.
Yeah.
No. We could. The world can still spin without football commentators, and indeed it can. But because it's the job I always wanted to do, and the only job I really have done, I take it kind of seriously. I know it's not important. I know it doesn't save lives. I know it does nothing for the GDP of the nation. But an awful lot of people want to do it.
Yeah.
And so I feel kind of lucky and a little privileged to have had the opportunity to make a career out of doing it. And if I can just add just a very, very brief moment of something serious. Communication has never been more important than it is. I've been on the planet about 133 years now, and communication has never been more important, mainly because misinformation is so easy to spread.
Yeah.
And so actually in my little sphere, even though the information that I convey is not important in the big scheme of things, people care about it more than the stuff that is important. So actually it matters to them. A football match, an experience matters to them. And I'm a very small part of that. And there are techniques involved with commentary, which weirdly, whenever anybody pretends to be a football commentator, and you hear people say, here comes they don't sound anything like a football commentator. They sound like a pantomime football commentator. They're somewhere between sort of Alan Partridge and some crazy what was that fan zone thing that Sky had for a while? Where people tried their hand at it. And I'm sorry, there is we're all a matter of opinion. I might be somebody's idea of a good commentator, somebody else's idea of a shit commentator, and both within the same minute. But actually, you should be trained. I don't think there's enough training. I think actually broadcasters are thrown at the public now in football without getting the kind of training. I had a mentor who taught me 95% of what I know, and it was tough love. It was proper training, and I don't think there's time or inclination for that anymore, but there are techniques to riding that ride.
You had said to me, even when we were just chatting briefly about the sketch, that you were hesitant to be sort of drawn into one of these bantery thing about golf, like say your co-comments was making a joke,
about
and,
golf,
and you were quite disciplined about.
I think golf can be quite socially exclusive, or it can be perceived to be. It's not actually. I love my golf, and people from all kinds of backgrounds and all kinds of income ranges play golf, but it's associated as a kind of a middle class thing, and it is kind of quite expensive to play at any sort of serious level. And so I think you have to be careful of being less than inclusive. And when I say inclusive, I don't mean in the kind of 21st century definition of that. My mentor was a guy called Reg Gutteridge, the late Reg Gutteridge, who was a boxing commentator. And as I say, he gave me probably 20 principles to follow. And one of them was to be inclusive. He used to chide me before chastised me for commentating to the manager. Do not commentate to the manager. He's in the stadium. Commentate to your grandma. Commentate,
Right.
have an idea in your mind of some kind of typical bus driver, white van man, whatever, viewer, and try to pitch your commentary at that level. Don't assume too much knowledge. If the audience is 20 odd million for an England World Cup game, it may be the only game that those people are watching this year. There is an argument for explaining the offside law at some stage, so that he used to talk about that maths class we've all been in, where we got half an hour in and we haven't understood a word of it, but we're kind of frightened to put our hand up and ask.
Yeah.
And actually, sports commentary can go that way. So you've got to think of it as a piece of journalism. You've got to be editorially acute in terms of communicating and actually connecting with your audience. And then the point that you're talking about, the kind of now what they call in America the 2-man booth or the 3-man booth.
Yeah.
And we had a 3-man booth at the last game that I watched on TV with Darren Fletcher, Ali McCoist, and Rio Ferdinand. Well, listen, I'm not being critical of any of those three people. Ali McCoist is as good a broadcaster as I've ever worked with. But they were talking to each other. Well, what about us? And it's almost an inevitable trap that you're going to fall into. When it becomes conversational, you're just Statter and Waldorf, really. You're just talking to each other. And that was one of the things that Reg used to hate about commentators who started shut you out, be inclusive, welcoming you in, I mean, this will sound A, very catty, and B, incredibly detailed. But Darren started the commentary of Arsenal-Tottenham by referring to the game that he was at last night, Forest against Liverpool, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I saw it.
Yeah.
But the Arsenal and Spurs fans don't care where you were last. They don't actually care that it's you that's commentating or me that's commentating. They turn on for the game. They don't turn on to find out what you've been doing in the last 24 hours. This is not the Clive Tyldesley tour,
That's more for their own personal podcast.
Do it there. And so I think the more conversational nature of commentary is a little bit dangerous in terms of, as I say, talking within a kind of a chummy, pally, bantery cabal and shutting the viewer out. And that's one of the biggest crimes I think we can commit as communicators, as you can, as communicators.
Your notes, I seen it a few years ago when you were just showing people it was binders or whatever it was, and you had just, I mean, from top to bottom of crammed with handwritten notes. If I may say, your penmanship is excellent as well. But has to be. Would it bug you though if you got one mistake and you had to kind of just black it out or something like that? Would your OCD brain kick in and be like, I'm
a man with stickers. I have stickers.
Oh, okay. But is that common? Like, do other commentators do that level of prep? Like, do you have to?
We do, and we do it in our own ways. And obviously, in the 21st century, a lot of guys don't own pens, and that's fine. I compile Word files to augment my commentary charts, but maybe as a matter of habit, maybe that feeling of having done the work and it being there in front of me when the red light comes on. Yeah. So I don't particularly want to break the habit, so I compile the commentary charts. But anybody can do that. It's how you use the material. Yeah. It's how you use the research. I mean, once upon a time, commentating on a game in Eastern Europe was almost an impossibility in terms of research. But this thing came along called the World Wide Net, and with all its complications and challenges and evil geniuses that are now running it. But it's all kind of there. If you know where to find it, you can now find the information. I can find video footage of any football team in the world playing. So all of those problems, or I have no idea how to pronounce them, I have no idea what they look like, all of that has been taken away from us now. So we have all the information, but the good commentators use the information properly, and that's that editorial process. Some of my brethren There should be a crawler going across the bottom of the screen, which says, "I've fucking well done this research, so you're fucking well going to hear it." That is not good commentary. I'm going to squeeze this in. This took me half an hour. You can hear it.
Do you know what you mentioned in your book? You compared good commentary to good sex. Yeah. Can you please elaborate on that and what
Does
you...
he need elaboration, really?
Well, you could take that many different ways.
Isn't that one of the weirdest things in football when somebody scores a hat-trick and somebody sticks a microphone and says, "Was it better than sex?"
Yeah.
Well, what kind, which
specifically which
relation exercise were you? What, her or him, or who were you thinking of? Or no. My argument on that is that if you during COVID, I was doing one of the many podcasts that I did, that we all did at the time. Yeah. And one of the contributors was asked what their favourite piece of commentary. And they chose a piece of radio commentary from Euro 96, delivered by Jonathan Pearce in his Capital Goal days.
I'm familiar with it.
When he had a fantastic reputation for being very voluble and kind of slightly exaggerated and melodramatic, but it was popular radio and it couldn't have worked better. Alan Shearer had scored for England in a home tournament. So, I mean, if you can't go the whole height to the high levels, then when can you?
Yeah.
And he finished the bit of commentary with Super Alan Shearer. And that was this guy's favourite piece of commentary. Yeah. And I get that completely. But my question to him was, but do you want every piece of commentary to be like that? And he goes, "Oh, no. Oh, no. And if you were to ask a friend, probably not a well-known football commentator on a public platform like this, what is the best sex you've ever had?
Yeah, go on.
Their answer would probably be, honestly, really? Andy, you want me to tell you?
No.
And it would probably involve the office print room, or a broom cupboard, or the backseat of a
some
car,
spontaneous
or
place.
some bushes. It would be something fairly exciting and novel,
some bushes,
and unique. But do you want all your sex in the office print room throughout your life? No. And so I believe that good commentary is the equivalent of a warm duvet, a fluffy pillow, curtains closed, and you're with somebody that you know and love.
That's a great
You have
analogy.
An association, a connection, a trust in. And so the best commentators maybe don't provide the greatest moment of commentary in your football watching career.
Yeah.
Just like your most wonderful partner, maybe, I'm only saying maybe isn't responsible for the single most memorable liaison that you ever had in your life, and that's kind of healthy. I think that's
a fantastic analogy, to be honest. And like, you know what's funny as well? When I started, I did a lot of lip syncing to various commentators, to mainly Martin Tyler and Peter Drury, because they would do a lot. This is before Peter Drury was even on Sky Sports, it's so funny to see the sentiment of like the comments. I mean, like how much stock can you put in a TikTok comment? Like not that much, but it's so funny to see the general shift in consensus, because when I was doing Martin Tyler, everyone was saying Peter Drury is way better. Peter Drury is, the GOAT and all this sort of stuff. And then when Peter Drury came to Sky and people heard him more, then all of a sudden it was like, oh, Peter Drury's so annoying. It's and it became because I think people heard, like, Peter Drury is quite poetic, and he has these great one-liners which in a highlight reel people were crazy about. But I think when people were hearing it every week and it was about their team or against their team, but I thought it was just interesting to see the shift in, like, everyone was so pro Drury, say, and then
I love all kinds of music. Queen were not a favourite band of mine, but here's a song that everybody knows. If you're a Queen fan and you went to see them live in Freddie Mercury's Pom, and they just sang Bohemian Rhapsody over and over. They finished it and you went, wow, and then they went, and then they real. You're going to do it. You're going to do the same damn thing again. No, that's your standout. And it's sometimes said that the best commentators are like the best referees. You don't notice them. I disagree with that. I think the best commentators are like the best referees. You don't notice them until there's a big moment.
Yeah.
And then they either have the eyes and the judgment and the knowledge of the laws to make the right call, or in the commentator's point of view, if they've got the right words. And that was another thing that Reg used to throw at me, that if you are fortunate enough to get to work with a famous moment, what's going to be a famous moment forever and a day, then incredible, unbelievable, amazing is not enough.
Right.
Every football goal, every football moment really is unique. And so when it's going to be something which is replayed over and over again, both inside people's minds and on their screen, whatever that is, then you've got to find the words that match it. And I mean, listen, Peter Drury is a different kind of commentator to me. He's a much nicer person than me, by the way. Much. He's a really, really great guy. If you can feel a butt coming here, can't you? He uses words in a way that I would not. But what I really like about him is that incredible, amazing, unbelievable is not enough for him. He is trying to use this extraordinary vocabulary, which the great novelists, the great songwriters get to work with, and the great, not so great comedy. They're all those words are there, and actually, the commentators that annoy me are the ones that are lazy and just pluck the first word that comes out of some, not even in their brain, something that's kind of in their ear, and they just sort of throw at us, a little bit of, oh God, got that on the end of my hand.
That'll do.
Peter doesn't do that. Peter tries to find something, and he does it in a different way to me, which is very, very healthy. And I think the point you're making is true. I mean, I've got nothing whatsoever to complain about. I've been such a lucky boy in my career, but I would like to be working more than I am. I would like to, over the last, since ITV Bin Me in 2020, I would have liked to have worked more than I have done. And when I look back, and I'm kind of getting over it now, it might actually have done me a favor, because I think the only way that you can remain vaguely popular in 2025 is to appear in brief cameos and actually to have some historical legacy where people kind of remember you in a previous day, a previous era, a previous climate, and then still to be around, so that when people do hear me, they think, actually, he can still do it, And that's probably better than if when Martin went, Sky had chosen me, and I'd now be, there'd be effigies hanging from every Arndale centre in the UK now, bloody Tilsley, and what he said about my team. And that's, that kind of goes, I suppose that kind of goes with the territory now.
But on that, right, so say if there's a big moment, or there's a big moment coming, it's a final and something like that, I suppose I have two questions. One, do you plan what you're going to say? Like, if this goes in, I'm going to say that, or do you just live it in the moment? And also, two, do you have to sometimes think, okay, should I let this breathe for a few seconds, and then that's probably what goes into the craft of it more so, isn't it?
I mean, I think probably, and people are going, a certain number of people are about to switch off, because I'm going to mention the 1999 Champions League final, which is don't talk about that damn thing. If I was good that night, and that's a matter of opinion, probably the very best moments of the commentary of the two Manchester United goals, I think it's about 7 or 8 seconds of silence. After and Solskjaer has won it, after Sheringham. And Reg again. I'm sorry, this voice in my head coming at me, I'm sure from heaven. This wonderful, incredible man. If you've never heard Reg Gutteridge, YouTube it. YouTube some of those great middleweight title fights in the 1980s. And if you don't know anything about him, read about him. He is an extraordinary man. And he, as I say, he taught me an awful lot. And he used to call it thinking time. It's not resting time. Silence is golden in commentary, but it's not a rest. It's not, you're not having a chunky Kit Kat when we're not talking. You are thinking about what comes next. And to answer the first part of your question, you can't script in advance the most dramatic moments, because they're unexpected. But you can start to think ahead in a game. So if you're sitting on a great 2-2 match, and there's a free kick on the edge of the penalty area, and we're in the final minute stoppage time.
Yeah.
That's when you should be thinking, what am I going to say if this flies in the top corner? Those moments that you can use, and that's not cheating. Preparation beforehand, it's not just all those facts and figures on those charts there. It's actually thinking about the story of the game. What does this mean if Liverpool win? What does this mean if Manchester United win?
Yeah.
And you can actually make some notes about that beforehand, about the context of what a victory would mean to Ruben Amorim, what a defeat would mean to Liverpool at this stage in their season. So I think I say there's nothing in preparation which is cheating, but in terms of capturing the moment, you've got to wait for the moment to happen.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're sort of second guessing and all of those.
Yeah.
I listened. Motti was almost a hero to me, I suppose. Of all the commentators I grew up with, he was the one I most wanted to be like. He became a good friend. A great lunch, by the way. John Motson was a great lunch. And people always remember, as you will as a Liverpool fan, the crazy gang of beating the Culture Club. I didn't really like that. That was clearly written 2 days before. It wasn't. It wasn't how
you can tell,
it wasn't
can't you?
how the crazy gang. The crazy gang didn't kick Liverpool off the field that day. It wasn't a crazy goal that won it. It was a really good goal and a really good penalty save. So in a way, I think that was a bit contrived, and I think Motti had 1,000 better moments in his career than that one. And I think that's the danger of pre-prepared. Listen, I've done it, and I've used them. You'll find plenty of my culture clubs and crazy gangs which didn't quite work. The ones that work are the ones that come bang. Yeah, they're the ones, and you can't prepare those.
Do you know what? It's funny you say that, because the most memorable ones for me that you've said, and it's funny because you've said a few things, or things have been said to you that me and my friends actually use quite regularly in our everyday lives. So there's not for me, Clive, or if something's done well, it's like, well, it's almost done too well, Clive. That's sort of like he's almost hit it too well.
Too well.
or when Gerrard got the first goal in Istanbul, and you were like, and so anytime anything looks promising in my life, I'm always going, hello, here we go.
I'll tell you a lovely story about that. Liverpool played. It was the team with all the white suits. So it was probably almost a generation before that. When was that? Was that
94, 95, 96?
Yeah.
They
played in Paris. They played the first leg of a European tie in Paris. And we have various people in our ear. As a commentator, I like to have a feed of the match director, who's the most important person at an outside broadcast, the man or woman who's choosing which camera you see on your screen. It's a visual experience. We're only the soundtrack. So I like to be able to overhear their conversation to see where they're going. And then we have an editor, an editorial boss, who will, tell us, maybe to promo a game which is coming tomorrow night or something like that.
Okay.
And Liverpool fell 2 down in Paris. They were stinking the Parc de France out this particular night, and I pretty much wrote them off. And he said, and I got this voice in my ear. We said, wait a minute, we've got the second leg. We've got the second leg. Anfield, big night, still can come back from this, all that sort of thing. And he'd no sooner finished saying it, and 2 minutes later, Liverpool went 3 down. And I've got a lazy key to talk to him without you hearing. And I said, what for you now then, eh? And it was a little bit... And when Gerrard scored to make it 3-1, because Liverpool were 3 down at half-time, could have been 33, I was almost preempting the editor, really. There was a little bit of hype there, because did I think that they would score twice more in the next 6 minutes? Not really, no. I'd have to say.
But that's also your job, isn't it, to make it interesting, exciting.
Hello. And there had been a bit of a history of their progress to that particular final, which you'll remember well, the Gerrard goal against the Greeks. Can you name the other 2 scorers that night? Yeah, it's a good one. That's a good
My memory's awful.
Cinema Pongal.
Yes. Yeah, Cinema
And
Pongal.
I'm struggling with
it was 2 French players. It might have been Neil Mellor or something like that.
Neil Mellor is exactly who it was. So there you go. So there was that. there was the quarterfinal where Sam Hupia scored. He wasn't even in the team at the time. He played that night because was it Pellegrini was cup tied or whatever. And then the ghost goal, of course, in the semi-final.
Yeah.
The Luis Garcia goal. So there was that, and they were fifth in the league, something like that.
Yeah.
So there was an element of, and so it is written. Rather as it was with United, funny enough, in '99, that somehow I'm not a religious person, so I'm very much a humanist. I don't really believe in fate, but sometimes you get a sense of something in football, and I think actually the opponents get the same sense that, crikey, they're going to do it.
You can feel it, can't you? You can feel it.
Yeah. And certainly Bayern felt it that night.
Yeah.
And maybe Milan became suspicious of Liverpool, this rather ramshackle Liverpool team. You played much better 2 years later against the same opponents and lost.
Yeah.
So it wasn't the best Liverpool team that you've ever seen.
Yeah.
And yet there was an element of fate. So I think I was maybe just sort of capturing a little bit of that.
Yeah.
Just you get an instinct, something in the air. This isn't done yet.
Yeah, absolutely. But that could change the whole enjoyment, because I know you're saying, like, okay, like you said at the start, commentary is not, you're not saving lives or anything like that. But football is such an important part of people's lives. Sometimes too important, you could say, but it's a very important part. And you're I won't say literally, but you're figuratively colouring that experience of, these huge games that people just cannot get their mind off in the lead up to it. So this sort of thing of like, well, you could have gone, and Gerrard's put one back, and just kind of been a bit muted about it. But it was just this little sense that I got, oh, actually, yeah. And then obviously the rest happened, and, the commentator doesn't control that. But it really does shape your, like, even that, like, it wasn't the last penalty. Like, I can't really remember what your commentary was when we actually, saved the penalty to win it. But I remember that.
Something in my mind. I mean, Shevchenko had won one of these from the spot.
Yeah.
And as he walked forward, and you look at the video now,
he looked nervous,
didn't want to
didn't he?
be there.
No, he looked nervous.
He didn't want to be there. And I remember I had that flying around my head. But again, it's the difference between having a little instinct and maybe throwing a stone which causes some ripples. And my predecessor, I mean, great is an overused word in life, let alone in football. Yeah. Brian Moore was great. Brian Moore was a great. Yeah. His relationship with the public, warmth is the biggest single quality that any communicator can have. And Brian Moore had so much warmth. And millions of people who never met him loved him. And that takes... That's
not easy.
That's quite an achievement for somebody to form that kind of trust and it's depth of relationship. And when he passed, sadly far too young, I mean, there is Quickly Kevin is a podcast. And of course, he asked Kevin Keegan whether he thought, was it David Batty was going to score a penalty? And, Brian, pretty much to his grave, regretted, particularly because he had a really strong friendship with Kevin, and he kind of sold Kevin into an impossible situation. Was Kevin going to say, no, he's going to miss it? No, he's not. And not because it was missed, really, but because Brian thought it was poor commentary, and we do actually become our own biggest critics. If we're any good, we do. And he was great. Yeah. And he was kind of remembered for that because it's a mistake.
What it is.
I make a mistake in every game, at least one. But it was a big mistake to make at a big time, and it was one that he was kind of remembered for, which is...
That's a shame.
Tragic's not the right word. I don't... Yeah. Interesting vocabulary. I've never used tragedy or disaster since I was counting bodies in the Heysel Stadium. You do get shaped by your experiences. Yeah. But it was a sad error to make. And he really, really regretted it. And that's the difference between having a bit of a feel for something here, which could be wrong, and actually putting it all out there on the line, and
And so, do you have like when you're watching a football match and you're hearing commentary? Are there any things that sort of stand out to you that you're like, oh, I hate when...
Which is the word you're looking for? Yeah.
like what are certain things? Like, what would that be? Would it be just general banter, pub talk banter?
I think I'm pretty good at sending messages to young up-and-coming commentators who I think are good. I do kind of mentor a little bit, and I get asked to mentor, which is nice.
That's great.
Not to the kind of level that Reg took me under his wing. I'm not sure that would work necessarily in the 21st century, like a lot of mentoring and grooming is not the right word to use in this particular, but you know what I mean. Tutoring. I mean, I think I can still appreciate what I believe to be good qualities in commentators, but I mean, there are things that have me throwing stuff at the screen. We
don't have to name any names or anything like that. But it's more just the style, I suppose. Where, do you know what it is? I think commentators, like previously, would have been very much like, that's my job. I'm a commentator, and it's kind of been like, I don't know if diluted is the word, but there's a lot of ex-pros, or there's, it's a little bit more. I feel like it has gone a little bit more the conversationally, particularly like you see on, like, say, Sky Sports, if there's a big Sunday 4 p.m. kickoff, and there's,
what you're saying really is any twat can come along and start doing lip sync stuff of commentators and get followers.
Make a living
that's
on
what
it.
You're kind of saying, isn't it?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. Yeah.
We do all broadcast now, don't we? And I try not to grow old every day.
We all do.
But you do see young people literally living on their phones and living what they believe to be the best version of themselves for the rest of the world to see. And it's not for me to say that that's dangerous or fake, but I mean, as long as I'm 70 years of age. I've never been happier than I am in my life. I'd be even happier if I was going to live for another 70 years with the same health that I've got now. But I'm not a 70-year-old who thinks that nothing any good has happened since 1975. No music, no movies, no football. I'm really not that person. We've got 4 big things that we loosely call children, who are in the very late 20s and into their 30s now. We've got the most delightful little thing of 10 weeks old, which is the kind of generation turning over. So I like a lot of things about 2025, but I still got experience, which I hope that I can use. And there's a feeling in broadcasting in particular that you need 35-year-olds to broadcast to 35-year-olds. I really don't believe that, because I've been 35 and I've been 38 and I've been 45 and I've been 49. I've been all of those things. And as long as I don't wear those blinkers, then I can, and whenever I speak to groups of young people, usually media undergraduates, if I go to do some work at a university of some kind, I mean, particularly in the last 24 months or so, I say, look, I've been on this planet 70 years. Believe me, there's never been a war 2 hours flight from Heathrow in my life, and another one 4 hours flight. There's never been a world pandemic which has killed millions of innocent people. We've never had leaders quite like one or two of the leaders that we've got now. I'm quite a political animal, so I'm very, very conscious of all of that. This is, it's not usually like this thing that's spinning around that we're all trying to cling on to. It's not usually quite like this. It's usually a bit better than this. And when, when you're of an age where the noughties were really kind of quite optimistic, weren't they?
Yeah, 100%. It literally, do you know what? I mean, without trying to go too far down another tangent, but I feel like I can pinpoint the year of around 2015, 2016. I kind of feel that was when just the world in general
so
just
what do you say to a 12 or a 14 or a 15-year-old? You've got to give them the hope that it'll come back up. Because a lot of their values are much better than my values when I was 12, 14, 15. There are far more vegetarians out there. There are far more people of a young age who are concerned about the planet. There are far more young people out there who have some kind of social conscience than I had, when I was just drinking cider at university and selling rag mags and basically being some kind of Roman emperor in my own, my own little world. I mean, I hate to think really if anybody did a deep dive into my youth, how often I could be cancelled. But fortunately, I think I'm now. If people forget that period of my life, I think I'm a fairly sort of liberal, caring person now. But you've got to. There's got to be optimism, and the optimism, I believe, is in communication. Those of us who've got followers, more than 10 followers, there is a responsibility that goes with that. And I know that from time to time you think there's more jeopardy out there than there was for commentators 20, 30 years. Of course there is. Hopefully I've still got the experience to be able to relate to younger people, because I was a young person once upon a time, and the people that I love most in the world, apart from my wife, are young people, and they're our children, and they're friends. So, yeah,
I definitely think. Well, I was going to say, I definitely think that you have there's obviously a huge warmth there when you're commentating, but even chatting to you and just like hearing you on other things, is that like you have a very funny sense of humor. You know what I mean? Like it's very refreshing. Yeah, it's odd. It's very refreshing though. Do you know what I mean? So I think that can't be underestimated. If you can make someone laugh,
Content that makes me laugh or cry, I am in awe of. I like to write, and obviously, weirdly, I'm not a reader, so podcasts are a wonderful new thing in my experience, because I can learn so much from people who know more. I mean, or people that know more than I do, of wisdom rather than brightness, really, rather than intellect. I mean, intellect I'm a little bit kind of suspicious of. People who can write.
Yeah.
I mean, Bad Sisters. I mean, I sit there not only smiling and laughing, thinking, I couldn't write that. That is so good. Mrs. Horgan, you are just so good. Thank you for doing something. Which there's a series just about to come back called Severance. Series 2 of Severance.
Brilliant.
So good. Such good writing. I listen to, I don't know, anybody. Like Guy Garvey from Bury, where I come from, Elbow. And I hear him write about love and sing about love. And I've seen him live 100 times and stuff. I can't do that. And I think that there's a danger perhaps in the 21st century of confessing to the things you can't do because you're going to feel insecure, and then your mental health and stuff. No. Embrace the fact that there are people with extraordinary talents. Aspire to them. Don't try to copy them. Enjoy them. Love them. Take heart from the fact that human beings can still create these wonderful things. And actually, a piece of really good football commentary, and it may be Peter Drury, and it may be Guy Mowbray, and who knows, it may be Clive Tyldesley very occasionally. If that's just a moment which thinks, I couldn't do that, that's great.
Yeah.
It's what I liked about your content. You see, it was funny. It was really funny, and you kind of got 60-70% of what I was thinking and feeling at the time. What do I do here?
That's great.
Is this pause a bit pregnant now? Am I going to get lured into the banter? If I say something, he's going to say something, and then I'm going to say something, and it's golf,
and then
there's a football match going on, and all of these weird thoughts are going around my head.
Well, I think that's
whilst I'm also trying to identify footballers.
Well, I was going to say, I think that's what makes the commentary so good, is that you do have this discipline that I don't think everyone has these days. And I think, like you were saying, it's great that if people can look at something and think, God, I couldn't do that. Unfortunately, with commentary, everyone's like, I could do that. But I think that's testament to how easy you kind of make it look because of all the prep you've done that people don't see.
Let me say something precious, almost as a final thought. And this is really, really precious. Sorry, and I'm sorry because I hate precious.
Please.
When I was 15, I wanted to be a football commentator on TV. And, I was doing okay at school and stuff. I was always going to be set for university, 15, 16, 17, whatever I was. And if somebody had said to me at that point, I've looked into your future and I'm sorry, you're going to become an accountant. You're not going to become a football commentator. And I go, oh, okay. But you are going to appear on something which hasn't been invented yet called a reality show. And on this reality show, you're going to get to commentate on a football match to a network audience of 20 million for 30 seconds. That's your consolation prize. I try to make every 30 seconds those 30 seconds. Now, that is a ridiculous aspiration.
That's a great outlook.
But I really do, when I'm commentating, and I hear myself going down dead ends. I hear myself getting chatty. All those things that we're kind of talking against here, all the things I don't like, I hear in myself. Don't you worry. And I always watch the work back, and I'm very rarely satisfied at the end
That's
of
great.
it. But the discipline I try to have is to make every second count. And if that means shutting the fuck up, then that's can also often be the very best thing to do, as long as you say you make it thinking time. But I do hear so much content, whereas I feel as if somebody has just pressed play and record, and what are we going to talk about today? Well, no, that's not an intro. What are we going to talk about today?
I'm going to lose someone.
If you start your podcast with, what we're going to talk about today, did you not think about that before you press play? And make. I think there's so much content out there. Some of the quality's gone. Some of the standards have dropped. And I think every piece of content should be valuable. It should add something to people's understanding of whatever it is you're talking about. And when you listen, you listen to The Rest is History. When you listen to Richard Osman on The Rest is Entertainment, when you watch something like Bad Sisters, or Breaking Bad, or something that's wonderfully creative, when you hear somebody who's incredibly amusing, like Dara O'Brien in his peak, working the front row for about 15 minutes and having us all in stitches, that kind of brightness, that cleverness, but there's a discipline there, there's a standard. They're not going to let their standards fall. And if you're lucky enough to get opportunity, and a lot of people don't get anything like the opportunity that you and I have got, Andy. You've got to get that opportunity first, and I will fight for that opportunity on behalf of people. But if you're lucky enough to get that opportunity, then be proactive, seize it, make it important, make it precious. Don't be scared of it, seize it. And I think that's, if I've done anything with the opportunities that I've got, it's always to feed my belief that I actually can make some kind of living out of it.
Do you know what? No, that's actually really, really inspiring, and that actually speaks to me. No, it is inspiring. I've decided that's very inspiring because do you know what it is? Because I don't have it.
None of you can then, eh?
I don't have a huge amount of followers. Like I have a good following on social media, but as the followers go up, I tend to recede back a bit more. Like, so even just hearing that of just like not to be scared of it and to embrace it is actually quite.
A bit like commentary. Some of it kind of works. I mean, I'm trying to think of somebody in your. I mean, I think Michael Spice is very funny.
He's great.
But not everything he does works for me. It might work for somebody next, who's watching, the next person to watch it. But there's always thought. There's always a bit of courage, just something a little bit which may or may not work.
Yeah.
And that's. I mean, the stand. You do stand up?
No, I don't. I don't actually. No, I probably should, because it's something that I've wanted to do for a while. But that's probably another day's work. But Clive, I think
you just keep lip syncing commentators. You just stay where you are.
I'm just
easy live, Cantwell.
I just take what's already been said by great people and just mouth over it.
You're a parasite.
Clive,
man.
On that bombshell, I think that's a great place to end it. Clive, thanks so much for your time today. I really, really enjoyed talking to you.
Good fun. Okay, keep at it.
Thank you.